And with this, we come to our final talk for this year's NEOS conference. We are talking about a dead CMS. I don't think I need to introduce our speaker. He's our wonderful award host. In this context of the title of the talk, I will say a relic in the NEOS community. Welcome, David, to our stage for The CMS is Dead. Long live the CMS.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's a bit difficult. I mean, they probably chose me for this last talk because of my origin. I'm from Vienna. We are not the most optimistic people in the world. Yeah, we are very grumpy, actually. We won a lot of awards, actually, on being the grumpiest city in Vienna, in the world, sorry. And yeah, there is also this saying, you know, if the world comes to an end, go to Vienna, because there it happens 10 years later. So no innovation there. A safe haven after this talk, probably, but yeah, I thought a lot about what my next slide should be. I think it sets the mood to everybody. So, yeah. I'd say you probably better go home. There's nothing to see. It's just a bit depressing. There's maybe a nice family member waiting for you, or a train you have to catch. So, I don't know. Very depressing. Oh, I have to start timer. Okay, nobody left. That's surprising, but I will do my best to keep up with new slides. Okay, the color is not a hidden message. I just liked it. I mean, developers. Who needs developers anymore these days? Everybody's talking about AI and agentic workflows. Who needs a developer? It's obsolete, isn't it? So why bother? Same for the editor. Also replaced. As I said, if you want to go home, just feel free to stand up and leave. It's okay. The agency business that we all have been in for the last couple decades, is it still working? Good question. Is the open web dying? Many people already said that. Maybe it's happening now. And is your content still worth something? or is there so much content already everywhere that it's basically irrelevant? Thank you. Yeah. As I said, just leave. Okay, so since many of you are still here, I might have to more deeply explain what kind of emotions are inside myself for the last 1 or 2 years. It's been probably not just a ride for me, but for everyone, and I tried to somehow bring my thoughts into some slides and explain a little bit where I think we are and where things might move, but maybe not. So it's time to change the mood a bit. And because, you know, we Viennese people, we can not only be grumpy, we can also be very funny. Okay, so is the CMS already a solved problem? I would argue, yes, it is. Does it make it obsolete? I would say no. It's evolving, it's changing. So welcome to my talk. The CMS is dead. Long live the CMS. My name is David Spiola. I already explained to you I'm from Austria, Vienna. And I'm happy that you guys are with me on this journey here. It's exciting for me as well. Okay, let's start with some heavy questions, okay? So, do you think NEOS is going in the right direction? In 1 or 2 talks I had with people on conferences and off conferences was, is NEOS going into the right direction? Or is basically the target moved somewhere else? I mean, we invested a lot in the last year into NEOS 9. And one question that people ask me, David, you are a core team member, maybe you can explain to me how can I sell NEOS 9 to a customer? It's a tough sell, to be honest, because it's under the hood, you don't really see it, there is no hood, you can open and look at it, and that's why some people, I would say, have a bit mixed feelings about NEOS 9 and if this was the right investment. And following that question is, we spent 8 years for the new content repository, and was this the right choice in these times? I mean, a lot of things happened in the last 1 or 2 years. So, but what if I tell you that the CMS has never been more important? And it plays a vital role in the internet economy. And you are sitting exactly in the right room right now. Because my selling point is, from now on, that NEOS 9 has the best value proposition in the market for the next things that will be ahead of us. But before we go into that, a brief history. Somewhere in the 80s, the journey started. People were sitting at mainframes to retrieve information from a big computer in one room. Around 95, I didn't research a lot, but somewhere around that date, the first CMS systems emerged. And the user experience actually went up, so we improved things and made things better. The user experience to get data or get content improved. And with every technology we introduced, we basically improved the user experience, but also introduced new complexity. And this complexity was introduced to make things more efficient or more user-friendly. But at the end, we had to deal with it. So a new set of problems emerged and a new set of tasks had to get done. And this is going, all the way up, with the mobile phone, for instance. We suddenly had to handle responsive design, and we had new problems to face, and we had other conference talks about content first, and how does this work, and how to basically handle it for our customers. And this basically, for me personally at least, went to a point where UI, UX came to a peak. We had very polished websites, applications in the browser, everything is possible, and the user experience was at a peak. But again, with every technology, with every new layer in the stack, we also added complexity. Yeah, and then user experience, at least from my point of view, dropped because we started to integrate chatbots, because we have this cool LLM stuff right now, and that's the new interface to retrieve information and give information to users. And this went on, and then we started prompting with GDBs and other systems, Claude and so on, and we have to address new problems like GEO, generative engine optimization, and things like that. And as we already heard in the keynote, MCPs are suddenly a thing, but not a single technology we introduced helped with the user experience, at least from my point of view. It was going back. But the complexity grew all the time. So, if you will, we are back in the terminal right now as developers. It's like back in the mainframe where you prompted something, you hit enter, and then you waited sometimes hours for a result. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. The only thing that had changed is that it's not one computer in a big room anymore. The resource is the internet, websites, content. So the big question for everybody, I guess, is what comes next? What will be the next UI or UX, or how will this go forward? And I would argue that they had the same feelings about it in the 80s. Nobody knew. We will see. We have to experiment, we have to explore, we have to fail, and we have to get back up and find new ways to solve our customers' problems. So the main quote is that more complexity always leads to more work, always. And this work has to be addressed. Everything we do never leaves again the stack, or everything what we introduce in the stack never leaves the stack. Secondly, efficiency doesn't shrink a market, it explodes it. So there is this famous quote from the 1800, how do you say in English? 1865. That was perfect English, wasn't it? There is this statement about coal. If we make burning coal more efficient, we will use more coal. And it's with this paradox is still valid today. But AI, machine learning, and so on is the biggest efficiency jump yet, at least for our industry. So usually our clients called us and we went to them to solve their problems and make their systems more efficient. So probably somebody feared, oh, this will cost me my job. Did it? Not really. New jobs were created, and the fear was actually not real. In all of those years, and even now with AI around, I would say that content is the new oxygen. The entire industry is relying on good content and never been more dependent on it than now these days with training LLMs, serving Google overviews, and so on. They need us very, very badly. They don't want to tell us they need us, but they really need us. So AI doesn't change the game, actually. It elevates it. But AI is relying on a resource it can't produce. So for the last 20, 30 years, we all and many others together filled the internet with content. We created the mainframe with fresh water or content, if you so will. And this is actually the resource now big LLM providers are depending on to train their models. But they do this very aggressively and try to grab as much as they can. And there is also the rumor, at least, that somewhere between 2028 and 2030 or 35, this reservoir will be empty. All content has been processed by the LLM, and there is not enough new content coming into the reservoir to keep the cycle going. It's like a S-curve. So it was very flat at the beginning, then there were big jumps in the model evolution, but the model steps, the evolution is slowing down every year. And they tried to cover up with synthetic data, and this is not working, at least not as they expected, because hallucinations went up from 20% by 40% if you just feed the same water, the same LLM again. So it really relies on good and high quality content. Content is now more valuable than ever before since we are all in this business. So, what we have to do? We have to keep up the quality, and we have maybe start to control who can access it. If an agent comes to your website, it's regardless if it's Google or Claude or ChatGPT or I don't know, something that is running on your local machine, you're handing over the presentation layer, if you so will. You are not fully in control anymore of the message you try to communicate, because on the other side is a receiver who makes an interpretation of your content or mix it with other content, as Robert already explained in his keynote. But, and this is also very important from my point of view, your website is the only place you truly own in the internet. You can get a domain, you can get a web space, you can make a website, and there is no paywall, no walled garden, no censorship, no whatsoever. It's actually free to use. So agents are a new customer segment, if you so will. Today they are your audience. Later in the talk, or tomorrow maybe, they are your workforce. So what really happens to your website is that your website is now a data source, because the presentation is somewhere else. It's all about the data. And if you so will, you have one source in a content repository, for instance, and I ask myself, how will this go forward? And I would argue that the internet will split into two internets. The first one is the internet we know and love, the human web, where things are free to access, to use, and to consume. And it will split in something I call the agent web, where we have to make sure the content is managed, the access is managed. This is where our CMS becomes a data source for somebody else. It's a different use case for the same data. Yeah, so they are already here. This is a screenshot from a customer website. Do you have a? Oh, yeah. Down here you see all the bots who showed up within 24 hours, and you can see here that one of the big ones usually starts heavily scraping your website, what could cause several problems, caching problems, infrastructure problems, and so on. And on other occasions, you might have suddenly very high demand because you, I don't know, you end up at Google Discover and suddenly you're the big thing on the internet and you have this one piece of content everybody wants. Everybody will try to get it immediately. And this is a very civilized screenshot, I would say, because usually it happens like that clients call and say, my website is very slow. And then we started investigating, and we figured out that 80% of the traffic is bot traffic. Traffic you have to serve, and traffic or content that everybody wants. Everybody. So, language is always interpretation. So let's say you have something to say, you have something in your mind, and you have to communicate with others. You have to put it in some kind of interface. Usually that's language. But language is open for interpretation. So true isn't always true. It could also be a false positive, depending on the question and how it's asked. So to give you a little example, if somebody asks you to go to get milk and this person says, please go to the store and bring me 2 liters of milk. And when they have eggs, bring 6. You return with 6 liters of milk, of course. Yeah. So suddenly, true is not true anymore. And in terms of language models and interpretation, this could entirely change the game on what the final result is the person receives. So we need to build context. And we have to know if it's a human or it's a machine, and we have to address different issues. So content plus schema is data. And for me, when I experiment with the new content repository, it blurs a bit with a relational database. I sometimes think like, I could also solve that just with node types in the content repository and not spin up a domain-driven design model and create an application around it. It's blurring. And the new content repository is basically a knowledge graph. And in this knowledge graph, for instance, we have an article node and we have edges, and these edges are information that connect other nodes with each other, eventually evolving into a web or network of nodes we also like to call knowledge graph. So, but schema is the part AI can't create or manage, because there is a lot of thinking involved. Your schema has to be well structured and shouldn't change rapidly. You have to be careful changing it, evolving it, and so on. Yeah, as already mentioned, agents are not only your audience, they are also your workforce now. So this is something I call the silent drift. So back in the day, it really doesn't matter as a developer or editor, you basically did every step yourself and you were always in the loop, and you could also correct yourself on each step and basically notice instantly if something is going in the wrong direction. But if you hand this over to an agentic workflow, it's probabilistic by design. So there is no certainty that the agent or the agentic framework understood what you meant and is slowly drifting away and you don't even notice it. So this is what I call the silent drift. And to be fair, sometimes I like it, that I end up somewhere else I didn't think of. So it's also an inspiration sometimes, but sometimes it's also very, very annoying that you, oh no, I didn't pay attention for, let's say, 3 hours, and suddenly completely somewhere else I never wanted to be. So, I would say that we need 2 realms or spaces in order to address this probably for our clients. The first one is the core space that is truly deterministic, in a sense that everything happens exactly as you said, and it's immutable and reproducible, audible, and basically stable, and in the best case also fast. And around that we have this new space I call edge space, where a lot of things come and go, stay or not stay. I don't know, I vibe coded something over the weekend, this plugin, this feature for Neos, whatsoever. They come and go, and sometimes they're good, sometimes this was just the experiment, but it's a space where you can evolve, where you can experiment, and where you eventually create new stuff. So generate in the agent space, guarantee in the core space. And use both. So we need both. We need a stable core in an uncertain world, and AI is everything but not certain. We need a stable foundation to handle what AI is doing. So, we have the event-sourced content repository, what is also sometimes referenced as Git for content. And I think this analogy is absolutely 100% true. Nothing to add here. Each event is basically recorded, and you can go back in time and change things and merge, branch away and merge stuff and so on. So I argue that in the near future, we will have also agentic workspaces or agents who work in their own workspaces and do stuff overnight, shuffle content around, get some data from some feed and updates your blog post, whatsoever. We will see a lot of generated or agentic changes in our content. And with the silent drift, as I already mentioned, you have the power to check what went wrong when. And you can go exactly back to that point in time and decide what you want to do next. I don't know other CMS system who can do that today. They have sometimes very, very cool tooling on top. This is something we don't have right now, but it will come. But at the core, if they have some workflows in the CMS system, if the audit log is something that you put on top, it's too late. You need event sourcing in order to make sure who is to basically, at the end, you are basically accountable for what's happening, and you need a system who helps you figure out what actually went wrong. So the pipeline already exists. An AI agent is generating new content in a review workspace. You become a supervisor. You say, that's okay, that's a good change, that's in my interest, and then it goes live. So the important part is that you evolved from an editor to a supervisor. So in software development, we have DevOps. We spend a lot of time figuring out how to manage code changes and so on in order to make sure everything is running smoothly. Why not do the same for content? With Neos, we can do that. So in DevOps terms, you have version control. That's the event source content repository, Git for content. You have CI pipelines, draft, review, publish. Code reviews, editorial approval gate. Rollback, go back in history, make your change. And we can also govern our content, and we can also control cost. We can check how much did it cost to generate this content, and we can also, who of you is actually familiar with the 402 status code of HTTP? Okay, so this one is actually around forever. So it seems like somebody already predicted this will happen, because you get back payment required. And there are already some systems evolving where an agent comes to your website. The website basically responds with a 402, say you have to pay to access this information. And based on blockchain technology, money is getting transferred, and they get so you can make contracts and say, okay, you give me this and that amount of money, and for that you can make 10,000 crores or whatever. And this is something that this will happen quite soon, I guess. So, where am I? 27 minutes, okay. Neos, a predictable foundation in a generated world. And this is what we as developers, editors, agency owners should always think about for the next project. Because until Neos 8, the unique selling point from my point of view at least was the UI and the UX and the user experience, content management system. But for machines, it's a context management system. With the knowledge graph, we have the power to return meaningful, insightful information for agents to consume, to basically also control what message they transfer over to the actual receiver. And I think it's also very important to mention that AI isn't smarter than you. It's cheaper. For now. Because if the real cost hits the market, this will change rapidly. So don't be afraid of AI. Use it. Play with it. Fail with it. Because it elevates the CMS market into something new. Because a developer is suddenly an architect. An editor is suddenly a supervisor. And the agency is actually building context for their customers. So coming back to my edge and core space analogy, I think we should experiment a lot more with this stuff. We shouldn't be afraid of it, and we shouldn't be ashamed of it. But we also always should keep in mind that it's just generated and probabilistic and never really solid. You cannot test it, you cannot predict it. The model can change overnight and it reacts differently. So many things can happen. But Neos is a stable foundation, but it can also help to grow the Neos ecosystem. If we have more packages, more experiments, this will eventually go into the core in one way or another, and this will expand to ecosystem. And this is actually the foundation we all should rely on, that Neos is a very good bet, a very good foundation for the next years to come. So, just to sum it up, what is the real core and the real selling point of Neos 9? Event sourcing, projections, workspaces, dimensions. The story around that you have to create yourself when you talk to your customers. But this is actually what you are selling for Neos 9. So now it's time to migrate. 9.2 is on the horizon. It's a LTS version, yes? No? No? Oh, okay. 9.3 is the LTS version, thank you. And it's the right time to start the experiment. So go back to my initial statement. Is the CMS dead? Should you go home? Should you be depressed? No. Is it okay to be anxious, not to know what comes next? That's okay. I'm too. But what I want you to do is go build as much as you can. It's good for us, it's good for Neos, and it's good for the internet. Thank you.
Well deserved, I would say. Well
Thank you very much.
deserved. So there's a lot of questions. I will come to them in a second. First of all, even Robert said this could have been the keynote. I agree, but I also think it's a nice closing for this conference. So it's well placed, I would say.
Thank you very much. It's
Unfortunately,
a big honor.
Unfortunately, David cannot win the award anymore because we obviously have to do the calculations beforehand. So we murmured about it a bit, but yes, we already have the results ready.
It perfectly it's exactly what the narrative what the talk is about. Yeah, so it's over. Yeah, so
It's over. Okay, that's your taking home thing. It's over. So to get through the questions, should Neos focus more on a UX for evaluating agent output and stuff like that?
yes, and I think that we will see new kind of interfaces on how to interact with agentic AI and other systems. We didn't even have, it's like in the 80s, you know, it's a new market, it's a new situation. There is so much new stuff that we have to figure it out, but there will be new UX and UI, but which one is, it depends on us to figure that out.
Yeah. That's right. So, and why should an agent or agent provider pay for content if they can get it on the free web as well?
Yeah, this is what I meant with splitting it into the human web and the agent web, because what also we see with our clients that the business of selling your content with ads is basically not working anymore. And I think it's a fair point to say, if your website is a data source to others and you give away the presentation, from my point of view, it's okay to let them pay for it.
Right. And then there's two questions I would try to combine because they, I think, fit into the same niche. It is about how you envision websites in the next years. Like, what do you expect will happen to websites? How will they look like? Will they be only for agents or for users and agents? And then as a second part, if you are a data provider for agents with your website, how do you expect that to work? Would you expect that websites run their own agents to answer questions of outside agents, and who pays for all that again, right?
Yeah, so many questions.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, where to start? I mean, is HTML the right format to feed an agent with? Who knows? Is there a better way to do it, a more efficient way to do it? What does it mean? You know, all those years it was like, no, you have to serve the same content on a mobile device and on a desktop device, because otherwise Google tells you it's different content, it's not good for user, and you get a bad ranking. maybe this changes now. Nobody knows, I would say. I also doesn't know. But I would like to work on it and find new solutions for it.
Thank you very much.